Awesome. So for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Gia Davidson. I'm a practicum student in the Center for Women and Gender Equity. And this is our Tea at Two weekly drop-in event. So each week we bring in a different faculty or staff member, even student, to talk about feminist issues and then kind of help us connect with each other. So our host this week is Resmi Krishnan. She is the assistant teaching professor in the College of Technology, Architecture, and Applied Engineering. She also advises the Women in Tech student organization here at BGSU. So I know I'm really excited to learn more about what she does, her research, and the other work that she does on campus. But Resmi, if you wouldn't mind kind of talking about a little bit more about you, what your positions, you have many positions that you hold at BG, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you so much, Tina, for the nice introduction. And thank you, all of you at the Center for Women, for asking me to come and join you. And I see a lot of my friends from College of Technology coming here. So thank you for coming and supporting. It means so much to me. So seeing all the familiar names here. And thanks, Casey. Um, so I am working, as Gina said, I'm working as assistant teaching professor. I'm a QRF faculty. So I'm teaching in the mechatronics engineering technology program, which is our robotics program. Just putting it easy for everyone. Um, and I'm also teaching in the electronics and computer engineering technology, because a lot of our programs share between mechatronics and ECET. And like you said, I'm the faculty advisor for Women in Technology group. And what else? So what else you want to know?
Yeah, I guess I'm interested, kind of how you became interested in bioengineering. I know that's what your
Yes.
bachelor's is in. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
my
I was
degrees.
curious as to kind of the trajectory into that.
So it's kind of interesting story to share. Like I did all my studies in bioengineering and biomedical engineering. So my bachelor's, I started with that because I loved the medical field, but I didn't had the guts to go and become a doctor or a medical professional. So I took the other route. I always loved math, so a combination of engineering and biology sounded pretty cool. And went into my bachelor's. It was more like medical instrumentation. We were learning about instruments, diagnostic and analytical instruments used in medical field. So that is how I got exposed into all the electronics and computer side of things. And then for my graduate studies, my focus was always on bioengineering, but with data analysis. Um, so working with different, still again, it is more like a medical instrumentation side. Like my master's thesis was studying for pediatric cardiology. Then with the uh, I don't want to call it the PhD, like I was telling Gina, I didn't finish it. So the part I was working on later was for looking for brain aneurysms. So it was all medical topics, but the beauty was that it was interdisciplinary. So I was working in computer, then electronics and biology. So when I started teaching, I was using what I learned from my bachelor's, which was more electronics. And when the current position, robotics, is actually again an interdisciplinary field, it's making use of electronics, computer, and then mechanical engineering. And that's what robots, if you think about it, that's what it is made of. So all my interdisciplinary skills actually helped me to hold my current position.
Very cool. Awesome. So I know we talk a lot about in our office, like mentorship and kind of how that plays into our journey to our current careers. So I'm curious kind of what role mentorship has played in your life, either being mentored by others or kind of continuing that on.
Um, so when I want to add one more part to my background that I'm a first generation uh, college student. So when I started off, most of the time I didn't quite understand the need of a mentor, or I felt the need for it in the beginning. But when we all have that instinct inside us. When we don't know something, we ask and look for it, right? So that's how I kind of went and asked around people. When I was doing my graduate studies, there was a postdoc in my lab who was willing to help me and answer the questions. So I always go to that person because he was always supportive. After graduation only, like when I came into academia, that's when I realized that he was actually my mentor and he was supporting me. So the graduate part went fine, but for my when I started my academic life, I again like went and looked for people who walked the path before me and asked questions. There was not just one person like that, but there were like couple of people that I always go and ask the questions and get that direction. It worked out for most part. The only drawback of that approach is that if there are a lot of things that you don't know that you can ask, right? So if you know a question to be asked, then you can ask the people, you can find the right people. But I sometimes feel like there are a lot of things that I didn't know I can ask. So that part I always felt like a that I missed. But I when I look back, I'm like it was all good. Like I reached out to people and then started off like that. But one other part I want to add there is when I started my studies, I was not like this. I was kind of a introvert. I kind of hold back from going and asking people. The reason I'm sharing that is I know a lot of people like that outside, and they have to break that comfort zone to go and achieve what you want. It is not easy, and I share the same with my students. I understand when you say that you don't feel like talking, so but you have to make it gradually happen and then go for it. Otherwise, you will feel like you will be missing a lot. So uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. What kind of strategies do you think you've used to like break out of your shell more or like prompt yourself to ask questions, I guess?
It was basically the need. Like if I don't know something, for example, like grant writing, if I don't know how to do it, I always felt like my department and the college is really supportive of like who I am and what I'm trying to do. Um, I have to thank my chair and the dean. They are always supportive of everything I do. And my colleagues, they were like super nice. As you can see, a lot of them are here as well. So, like when I have the question, I have that freedom to ask them. But before that, it was kind of challenging. I had to force myself before coming into academy and find that comfort zone. It was not easy. But, I don't know something, I have to get it done. And I am in that deadline pushing me, then naturally we will go and ask around. So that was my only strategy at that time. But now I kind of tell my students, share my story with them and tell them you need to get a few network of mentors and uh, find some people that you can relate to and keep them in your list. It doesn't have to be from your current space. You can always look in your past and like I tell my students you can reach out to me anywhere you are. Doesn't matter what point you are in your life, I will be here for you. So like that, have a few mentors ready for you that you can reach out to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds like you're definitely mentoring a lot of a lot of your own students. I'm curious too, like how that mentorship shifts when you're in the classroom versus it's a student that you're advising, like either as a faculty advisor or part of Women in Tech. How does that look different in those different contexts?
Well, in my case, I kind of blend all those things together because that's basically who I am. Like, I like to share my stories with my students, and the speaker we had last week, she kind of was talking about being empathetic and being a human to others. That's how I also feel. Like, I when a lot of our students go through different things in their life, so I try to relate to that and try to be understanding of that. So even in classroom or outside, or even in women in technology, same thing, I tell that same thing to everyone. I just want to be there to support you as a teacher, or if you want a friend, as a friend, as a mentor. So share that passion, and then show them that you care about them is the key thing. Once they see that they can trust you, and if they feel that care, that's all that is there. And for me, that is what the style of mentoring that I try to prefer. Like, show them that I care about them, and show them that they can trust me and rely on me. And I tell them I don't know everything, right? I mean, so I will tell them, if I don't know something, I will help you to find it. And or tell you, okay, if you go like for example, like I had a student who came to me once and looking for daycare opportunities, and I reached out to you guys. I think I spoke to Jamie. I don't remember. So like that, I just direct them to the people who can help them. And yeah, if you show that passion and the care, that's what helps the students.
I have a question. You had mentioned, I think before we officially got started, that you have kids, and some of your choices in your maybe in your career path, or how you moved forward. I don't know if I would say was impacted by motherhood, or can you talk a little bit about how those two things interacted?
Yeah, that's kind of I know you are a mother too, right? So um I try to, like, when started family, like I had to set the priorities. So in my case, I wanted to be there for my children. Like, I don't want to be too busy. That's what I meant. Like,
Mhm.
for my graduate studies, at some point, my kids were very little at that time, so I didn't want to miss out that opportunity. Like, they're growing so fast. Before I blink, my daughter is 11 years old, and I'm still, like, she's a baby for me, so I don't want to miss those stages in my life. So I had to make a choice, and it was not easy. It was not at all easy, because the opportunities that I gave up were like really good opportunities. And do I feel sorry about that? Well, I feel that pain sometimes, but then I think why I did that. So the reason was solid for me. The reason I made those choices were because I wanted to be there for my kids. So that always helps me to move forward. And I knew that if I still want it in my life, I can, like, studies, I can do it anytime I want. But if I want to see my kids as 2-year old or 3-year old, that's only when they are at that stage I was able to do it. So that is why I made the decisions. It was strictly personal. And if somebody is asking me about that choice, that's how I advise them also. You make the decision. It's up to you. It's your priority. For some people, they might be in a situation where they have to choose their career or work, uh, compared to the family or any other situations. It's completely personal. So you have to sit down and prioritize what you want. Maybe what I prioritize today is not what I want 5 years from now. It will change. So I always think, like, okay, what do I want, or what's my priority at this point? And I don't want to make a decision that will completely ruin everything as well. So that educated uh, priority and the decision. Sometimes you just have to accept it and move on. Like in my case, that's what I did. But that's where that balance comes in, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just appreciate that you're open about it, because I feel like a lot of people don't talk about making those decisions and how they made those decisions and the challenge that goes along. And letting people talk about those things is so important, and that there's not a right way or a wrong way to do it, and there are so many factors to consider. So I just appreciate that you're open about it, because it's not an easy decision. And
Yeah.
so thank you.
No, I agree, because I don't know, if you asked me, it took me a while to maybe get peace with that decision. So maybe, like, as you grow older, you get comfortable as well. But I agree. And the reason I'm sharing it is I know a lot of people are thinking in that direction and maybe feeling that way, like, am I doing the right thing? That's why I'm sharing it as well. It's okay to feel that way. You made a decision, you had the reasons to make that decision, so that's why you decided it. And some days, when I feel low, then I feel low. It just have to be like that. And I have to remind myself, I made that decision. And then um, it's not like the end of the world, right? I mean, that's why. And that's another reason, I even for my kids, I want to show them that I did not give up. So that's why when I have the time and the energy, I want to continue and finish what I started. So I'm not giving it up, I'm just postponing it.
Yeah.
So hopefully one day.
Oh yeah, it'll happen. I have no doubt.
Yeah, I love that you talked about like the priorities being able to change over time. Because I think especially as a graduate student, like going out into a career, there's a lot of pressure to be like, what are your priorities? You need to set them now, and then they are in stone forever, which is not the case.
It's not like that. They are not set in stone. Trust me. Like, you will one day send me an email. Like I tell my students, when you have that thought cross your mind that, oh, she told me long time ago, send me an email. Now it will change. It's not like how it is. Right now you have certain priorities. 5 years down the road, it will be something different, because that's what life is. And that's why, like I mentioned earlier, it's good to have mentors, probably like couple of people not from the same background or situation, so you can reach out to them and ask them um, whether it's okay to postpone something for a little bit, or if this is what I wanted until now, but today I feel like I want something different. Is it okay to push it away or take a detour, for example? So it's good to talk about that. And that's something else that I like about this group also. Being someone like me, or coming, like I told you, like an introvert, or a woman itself, it's good to have people to talk. We need to have people that we can share our feelings with. um, we can freely talk. That kind of networking, um, it's important to build that. And I want our uh, younger generation to be understanding of that, like some good friends that they can count on, or good mentors that they can share their feelings with. uh, I will say that is very healthy for you to have someone. It's hard. Sometimes students tell me that, oh, it's hard for me to open up, which is true. We are all humans. We don't want to share our feelings, right? But sometimes you have to have that. It is not easy. It takes some courage and effort, but you need to have a network. And it doesn't happen overnight. You have to be patient there and slowly build it up. Sure, Casey, and you guys will agree on that, right? Um, having a good group of people around us. So
Definitely spoke to, oh, I saw Gray raise his hand. It just gave me a notification. I don't know if you meant to do that.
Oh, yeah, you can raise your hands through Cisco. I had a question. I don't want to like.
I love it. No.
Oh, that's so polite. I liked it.
So my question, and you'd already talked a little bit about like, mentors, especially like being a grad student, not really knowing what questions to ask. So I was thinking like looking especially at like technology and obviously, knowing like the gender disparities in various STEM fields. So thinking about kind of the importance of both, having those mentors that, look like you, represent you, or have your experience, and then also having those mentors that don't, but, go out of their way, to still mentor and support you, knowing kind of those disparities. So I wondered if you could maybe talk a little bit about your experiences, whether with women in technology or kind of what you've like noticed with students, those two types of mentors and how they're both important.
That's actually, yeah. I like that question because when I was doing my graduate studies, again, like I came as to US as an international student. This was a long time ago, 15, 20 years ago. Now I think about it. But everything was different. Like from where I grew up or the culture around me coming to here. Um, Now I wish I had a both type of mentor that you just described, someone I can relate to, and as well as a technology mentor. At that time the person I had was a good mentor for technology, like the person, he was really good in the field and I can go and ask him any type of technology questions. At that time I didn't get the importance of having someone I can relate to as well. I was, graduate students, we all look for our existence, finish our thesis, finish our project, keep moving and get our degree done. So that was my focus, but it actually was not at all that mentally healthy for me because I was in a high stress environment. And now I wish I had someone I can talk to, like the other kind of mentor you mentioned, someone I can relate to. And that is why I actually started the Women in Technology group here when I came to BGSU because I have like more than 10 years of teaching experience. And I noticed that I think I shared this with Casey. Sometimes I was the only female in the classroom. Okay. Because it's a technology engineering field, it's a male dominated field. But I never had any bad experiences myself. So I'm thankful for that, but it was stressful for certain students. Like I will always remember this. I had a student who once told me that that person was not comfortable sitting in the class, being the only female in the classroom, and that gave me kind of a pain because that's not right. Like somebody who is looking for an education and want to have that college experience feeling that way, like you are kind of isolated. So it was my true motivation. Like there are some of my colleagues mentioned it to me, and all these thoughts together really encouraged me to ask around and ask my students to see if we want to have a support group. And this Women in Technology group, if you look at our bylaw, it's kind of an all-inclusive group, even though the title is kind of says that way, but it is for everyone who wants to see more gender equality in the engineering and technology field, and anyone who wants to have a support to stay in the field. That's why we started that group, to provide that support, so that I don't want anyone else to feel like how that particular student felt. They need to know that, okay, we are around here, there are like-minded people available for you to reach out to or talk to. So that's why we started that group as well. And to come back to your question, yeah, it is very important to have both those groups in your life. Somebody who can advise you about your career, about your advancements in your career and study, and somebody who you can talk freely about anything you want. If you have some challenges that you have in your life, or anything you can open up and talk to as a stress reliever. So yeah, both are really important.
Exactly. I think about that a lot. My partner is at women in engineering field, and I know often she has struggles with being in the workplace and feeling like she's the only one. But from your perspective, working with students, kind of what strategies do you see them using to kind of navigate that if in situations where maybe they are the only woman in the classroom?
Most of our students, female students, like they're pretty good in managing it. I think they come to the field with that awareness. So I won't say it is completely how it should be, but I see that they are pretty strong and bold to stand that, you know. Sometimes it might come as a surprise when you see any kind of issues come up straight to your face. Like I said, I always felt lucky that I never had any. Well, occasionally there are incidents, but some students actually, even recently, 1 or 2 years ago, there was a student who told me that she went for an internship, and there were uh, it was most male dominated people, and they didn't want to accept her. You know, this is just 1 year ago. So she had to prove that she's really good in the field, and she had to let go of that, um, whatever she felt at that time, and keep that smiling face and keep moving and show that she is strong. Like, you have to prove, which is not the right way, but sometimes we have to prove that we are strong and we can stand up, and we are able to navigate in that particular environment. And then people will start turning around and acknowledge that, okay, she's not like a soft person. I, you know, like when I'm saying it, I can feel the pain. That's not how it should be, but that's what it is. So um, again, that's why I try to advertise more about this women in technology group, or being, I felt the need that, you know, as a female in this engineering technology industry, I need to advocate more for in having more females come to the field. Like um, right before all the lockdown and everything, um, I worked with Dr. Donna Trotman. She's the professor. She's a faculty in the VCT program, Visual Communication Technology. She's one of the people I consider as my mentor as well. I can go to her with anything in my mind and talk freely. So we organized a Women in Technology outreach event. Um, there were 80 high school students, female students, came to College of Technology, and they got to see all our labs and get some hands-on exposure to what we are doing in our labs and our day-to-day activities. So I just read the comment exactly. She's an amazing person. So yeah, so we were able to do that just to show that, you know, again, that kind of advocacy, that if I can do it, anyone can do it. It's just break the barrier, come and test it out for yourself. So I feel like even like now we need to do that more. Like, it doesn't matter what age, you know, what year this is, we still have to put it up front and say that come and try it out, you need to do more of it. So
Yeah. I love that you like kind of spoke to what your response can be when like students come to you with those experiences and talk to you about the situations. I know like a lot of us in the group are from the student affairs side of things. So I know as a future student affairs professional, I'm always curious as to how we outside the field or outside of academia can support students. So either women in STEM or students of color in STEM, any marginalized population that's going into, an area like that, like how can we go about supporting them on our end?
Yeah, and I also like as part of the Women in Technology group, we try to bring industry folks to our meetings and talk to these students, undergraduate students. Um, we started off with simply Women in Technology members, but then we opened it up to pretty much anyone who is interested can come and talk to the industry professionals to see how this is working. And I see my partner in crime, Melissa Parding, here for that activities. Melissa is actually our co-op associate director. Melissa, I'm sorry, I'm messing up your title. But she and I actually started working together to bring industry people and introduce the um, students to these industry folks so they can actually talk to them and get a clear understanding of how it works outside the college. And then we also started another program where our students who started working in the industry through internships have them sit as the panelists, and the students can talk to these students who went through the internship programs and co-op opportunities, so they can well prepare themselves by talking to these students. And then we have an engineering society in our college. So Melissa Co-op Office and Women in Technology and Engineering Society, we worked as a group, and then continuing the same thing, what we are doing. Basically, invite industry or have co-op student panels so that students can talk to uh, these experienced people.
Those programs sound really great. I'm sure your students are very appreciative for all the support that they get. It sounds like for you guys, for you all. Anyone? I know, like we've been not dominating the conversation, so if anyone else has any questions, I know I would greatly like to hear from some others, and I'm sure Resmi would too.
Any questions or anything? Questions, comments, or guidance? No, quiet group, I think.
Well, I can just say that, working with Reshmi over in the College of Tech and just like having that partnership with a faculty member, and that support of like trying to help encourage students, like she does a great job of that. We connect easily because we both are advocates for students, and I think we both kind of similar types of people where we had children and went through our education and had to decide what's our priorities and how our priorities have changed, because we've had a few conversations like that. Just, there was a time where I, went to part-time work, and so that I could, I worked full-time, and I was very, very overwhelmed with work and family. So I chose to go to part-time for a number of years, and then the other things changed in my life, and then I circled back to full-time. So just kind of the way our careers kind of sort of mimicked each other, even though we're kind of in two different areas, but still, and then I think too, College of Tech is I would say primarily male dominated in leadership, and so even just kind of being at that level where we can kind of relate on that level and understand that. So just having a partner like a peer-to-peer kind of relationship with, people who you kind of like accidentally mentor each other, I think, because that's not really what you're seeking out, but at the same time, you can relate on a different kind of level. So um, it kind of works, and encouraging each other and being willing to share work and trying to make programs happen, and just sort of cooperating that way, even though like we don't really have to do that. So our jobs don't really intersect that way formally, but on an informal level, we were able to do that and just like provide support to each other, and then ultimately help, students in general, but also kind of that focus on the women in technology area, because they are really probably, it is kind of a minority.
That's so true. And thank you so much, Melissa. That is so true what you said, that kind of peer mentoring, even though it doesn't look like mentoring. Sometimes I just go to Melissa's office and I might be going to ask her something, and it should, ideally speaking, take 1 minute. But I think our conversations never took more than it was never less than 10 minutes. We just sit there, talk, and from what I wanted to ask her all the way to it will go all around the world and we will come back. But every time I had that conversations, it gives me more lighter, because between all the things we will be so stressed out and go there with one thing in mind. But it's that friendly conversations that help you, like, okay, it's like I can deal with whatever is happening, and that kind of lighter hurt will help you more focused in your work, and you can be more productive. So, like, I really like the idea of you guys putting these together with the tier 2. Maybe we need this in every college, a small version of this, so that we can interact and chat with each other, and make more friends. So,
I think it definitely makes for
Yeah,
the best quality work relationships is when you can talk about other things besides work as well. So,
not to put Jamie on the spot here, but thinking about like peer to peer, especially like we in the center over the summer, it was just Jamie and I, way back when, and so that was that really important interaction, and that it was something that wasn't hierarchical. It wasn't always grounded in necessarily the work that we were doing, and I think especially when you like take it from like a gendered perspective, like in fields that are more male dominated, I think those sorts of conversations maybe don't happen as naturally, right? That sort of focus on feelings and your emotions impacting your work isn't there. But I mean, for us, that's how we got through and implemented so many of the programs that we kind of regularly do now or are known for. Is really that back and forth. So a little shout out to Jamie and appreciation for her as a peer that has mentored me.
good job, Jamie. You all are awesome. Like, for that, I have to thank my friend Jared over there. One day Jared just sent me an email saying that the Casey is the head of the Women in the Center for Women's Studies, and he is friends with Casey. So he wanted me to introduce Casey, and that's how all this happened. So thanks to Jared for that. But this is how, I see all of this as like, this is that healthy networking thing that I mentioned in the beginning. And I tell that to my women in technology students. We had a meeting last week, virtual uh, get together. There were like, yeah, same number, around 8 to 10 people were there, and everybody was sitting in their home. I know, for all of you know how stressful this sudden online transition was for everyone, for students, staff, faculty. It was something different. So some students were stressing out, and immediately the others were in to say that, it's okay to share that. I know they were talking, chatting, not through the Women in Technology platform, but as a friend to friend. And sometimes I felt like, okay, good. Now that particular person who is in need or who was feeling so much stress kind of feels better because the friends stepped in. And that was a comfort thing. And for our get together, we talked about every topic from cooking, from food to, we didn't cover the studies because that was not the goal. So we didn't talk about it, but everything else. And everybody was like in their house. Nobody wanted to switch on the camera because they were either like lying down or like in their comfort zone. So I took it as a positive thing because that shows like you are relaxed, you are composed, and you are fine. And then having that conversation, like we went to meet for 40 minutes or so, we went over a good 1 hour, so it was like nice. Okay, so everybody, whoever joined, whoever was able to join, we had that chit chat. And sometimes like this, that's what we need.
Exactly. I know a lot of the conversation has been focused on like how do we support students during this time, but also like how are we supporting each other like as coworkers and colleagues, I think is really important too. So
Yeah, that. And again, it, like in my case, like I told you, I'm lucky to have so many good friends in my college. So we try to like chat with each other and try to meet virtually for like, just have that. Somebody has to take the initiative and say that, okay, if you have time, we can chit chat for some time, um, and just 30 minutes or 15 minutes. Even like we our friends, not in college, but my friends, like we do that now since we cannot see each other once in 2 weeks or so. Few of us will be like, okay, we have to get together and then talk about general stuff. And we try not to talk about corona or any of other sad stuff, but sometimes that comes in, or talk about movies and cooking and all the general things, and just to relax a little bit. So, yeah. Any questions or any other questions from anyone?
I have kind of a random question, but if you could change one thing about the experience for women in technology, what would it be?
Ooh. Well, if I could change or I could do something about it, like I'm doing now, I want to see more students and more kids interested in the field. I know they are interested, but our society is kind of telling them that just talking about engineering and technology field. When I read so many notes or experiences from people that for if they tell their high school teacher that they want to be an engineer, the sudden response is, oh, that's a male field, why don't you go into something else. So I wish I could change that. And instead of people, um, on the same note, when I was trying to encourage more females coming into the technology field, once a comment I heard was, why don't you let the females choose what they want? Like, the person who gave me that comment probably understood that I am forcing, or women in technology or whoever it is, forcing females to come into engineering. But what they are not seeing is the need for that force. Does that make sense? Like, they took it the other way. But that was a first time for me. I was like, okay, people can think in that way as well, but they are not seeing why that need is arising. Because in my department, I'm the only female faculty. There is a Catherine Smith, she's a pilot, so she most of the time works in aviation related activities. But for department meetings, I see her. But other than that, on a routine, like, for chit chat and all, she's not there. So I'm the only female in that building, most in our department side. And that is why I am doing all these, right? So sometimes I wish I don't have to put all this effort, and it was a natural thing that if someone is interested in engineering, come to engineering. There shouldn't be a gender attached with it. And the same way, if someone else wants to go into nursing field, for example, let them do that work because they like it as a good job, a good passion for them. And I wish there was no uh, gender stamp attached to any of those things. So, yeah.
I just imagine that it must feel, I guess I should ask this as a question. Does it ever feel exhausting to be the only woman in that space, or to be the one that's like, sort of like championing that cause? Maybe there are others who do champion it. I don't know.
Yeah, in my case, like I said, Dr. Donna Trotman, she's like very like she started all this even before I came into the field. She was always an advocate. So I was lucky enough to find like-minded people. So my colleagues, for example, when I set up the worked with Donna on that outreach event, we had so much support from our all the department chairs, from the dean. So everyone kind of understand it. So I never felt like I'm doing it myself. I always felt like I'm just being in the front and I have this support. So that was always a big help. But I understand your question. If it was not the case, like sometimes students tell that stories that how they felt like they are representing a big group, then it can be overwhelming. It can be really tiring at sometimes. But in my case, I've always thought that's how I am able to do this because of the support I am getting. Otherwise, I don't know, maybe I was able to do it, you know. Um, but it is, I just want to show that support to, if a new student is trying to join BGSU, I don't want them to make a no decision because they feel like I will be isolated in that place. I don't want that to happen. So that is another thing we try to advertise and advocate all this. Again, like I said, if possible, make that decision based on your interest, not because of the environment, you know. But it's not always the case. Um, we might be missing out. I don't know. There will be, I'm seeing only the students that comes through my classes and my, you know, whatever programs I am dealing with. I'm sure there are a whole lot of people that we are not able to reach out to. So yeah, there is always that factor there. There's nothing we can do about that one. But that's another thing, like, you know, I know that if a student reach out to you guys, now you know that, okay, it's not an isolated area in College of Technology. There are so many supporting staff there. You just need to find them so you can direct them. So, um, so hopefully all these interactions and all these conversations will reach out to people who we are missing out as well.
Well, and seeing all of the faculty and that were here today to support you and to support the center too, I think says a lot to you. So that's awesome.
And that was nice. It was a good surprise. So thanks, guys.
We love cross-departmental collaboration. Yay!
Yes. So any ideas that comes to you guys? I'll be happy to explore more on it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Resmi, for coming, for everyone for tuning in and hosting us today. It was great to learn more about you and learn more about the college. I know I didn't have a lot of prior knowledge going in, so this is definitely an educational experience for me at least. So before we head out, Jamie, I didn't know if you were available to take our picture for our social media page if everyone is Cool. If you're not, feel free to turn off your video, but I don't think you have your microphone on, Jamie.
My bad. Yep. Okay.
Hey, Cindy tuned in.
That's what I was trying to say. I was like, Cindy, are you going to be able to get on, or is your camera? But all right. So I'll give you all a countdown.
Okay, thank you.
All right, everyone, smile. 3, 2, 1. All right. Let me look at it. Make sure we didn't have any blinkers.
Perfect.
Oh, it's really nice. Okay.
It's perfect. Good.
Fun.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
So our next Tea at 2 will be next week. It's actually going to be our final one of the semester. Very sad. We will be back in the fall. So our host next week will be Dr. Shannon Orr for the Department of Political Science, and we'll be chatting about her research and kind of her work in the community. I know she's involved in a ton of projects, so I am interested to learn more about them. So also today is our last day of, well, the last day of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So we have a few month-long virtual events that are continuing until today. So our virtual 5K and dog walk is still ongoing on social media, as well as Denim Day. We're still celebrating that over on social media as well. So if you want to stop by, we would love to have you engage in those opportunities as well. Anyone else have anything else they want to plug before we say goodbye?
Thanks, everyone. It was so nice.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Resmi.
Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.